essentially a party band. We'd play the high school parties, and
Right.
we had a whole lot of fun doing so. But I've always loved. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, do you play any other instruments?
I'm just learning the mandolin.
Nice.
Is one thing. Yeah, I had the pleasure of my father essentially found his grandfather's mandolin from the 1930s.
No.
It's a Stradolin mandolin.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't in playing condition at the time that he gave it to me, but I found a professional guitar maker down actually in West Virginia who took it for about a month, and he essentially took it all apart and put it back together using materials of the time, and it has just a gorgeous tone to it. So I'm kind of a novice on mandolin, but taking what I know from guitar and beginning mandolin. Of course, it's tuned differently.
Well, that's really cool, man. Like all stock parts. That's it's very rare. So you got very lucky with that one.
Oh yeah, all stock parts, and it's painted on the back to make it look like wood. Apparently, at the time, Sears or what have you would have a mail order catalog,
Right.
and this was handmade by someone, in the 1930s.
Nice.
So it's really amazing, and it's an honor to play it, of course. And it just nothing like it has any similar tone that I've found. Almost like Ben Harper would play his Weisenborns from the 1910s and 20s, and he plays them so effortlessly.
Right. Nice.
But yeah, I've always loved music as a kid, and it all started there.
Sorry, Dan, could you tell us where you grew up?
Sure, I grew up in Long Island, New York.
Nice.
In the North Shore of Long Island, and it was a wonderful place to grow up. Beaches were near, of course, the South Shore, the Hamptons, and ocean beaches and surfing and all that good stuff was there. And it was a wonderful place, and it was also a very good music scene as well. Always in the city, we'd always take trips down into the city and go to CBGB's and Kenny's Castaways with my good friend Johnny Cuomo, who played there. At the time, he had a band called Voice of the Turtle. And they did quite well. Then he went on to Ireland, and he learned about 8 different instruments in Ireland, and he still plays Irish songs and does storytelling for children in schools on Long Island, and he's quite amazing as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm just so fortunate, yeah.
I was going to say, while you were in New York, did you see any great bands while you were there?
Oh yeah, I mean New York they call it the city that doesn't sleep because there's just such amazing music, food, and the ethnicity, anything that you could possibly want, you could see. But sure, of course, folks like Bob Dylan would come to the university.
Right.
Another one of my heroes, Neil Young, Madison Square Garden.
Right.
Saw my first Grateful Dead show, Madison Square Garden.
Nice.
Eric Clapton. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, one quick sidetrack here, then we'll get to your song off the compilation here, Dan, is I actually saw Fish at on New Year's Eve, Madison Square Garden in 1999. And
Okay.
what a show that was. That was my first experience of New York, and it was well worth it. My buddy and I went up. We stayed on the Jersey Shore because it was cheaper, but definitely worthwhile. So we're going to get to your song on this NYC Factory Fast compilation. The song's called The Woods. This is Dan McCarthy. Dig this.
the sea, through the dark forests, you'll find me. Between the rocks and the big trees, you'll find you, and you'll find me. Feel the warm sunlight and feel the wind. The magic starts. We're together again. Into the woods and away from the sea, through the dark forest, you'll find me. Between the rocks and the trees, you'll find you, and you'll find me. Feel the warm sunlight and feel the wind. The magic starts. We're together again. Together again. We're together again.
Dan McCarthy, The Woods. Now, Dan, this is a fantastic tune, and honestly, this the way it started up, I know we talked about the picking a few times already, but the picking the song was just absolutely phenomenal. Like, I really got into it, and that really drew me in, and I just love the whole ambience of the whole song. So, well done.
Yeah, I absolutely loved, sort of the beginning and the build up, and just the whole. I mean, I actually was getting into it, and I don't know if you've ever collaborated, but I had a whole choir going on, and I could see you could bring drums in, and I don't know. I think I don't know if you like the simplicity of your music to keep it that way, but I was sort of, I don't know. Have you ever collaborated with other musicians?
I haven't at this point, but I've considered adding some strings, to give it some depth. Yeah, there's so many different parts you could add to it, and that's kind of the basic structure. But I haven't, but I would love to at some point in the future. Yeah,
it'd be quite exciting to have sort of a choir, and I don't know. I'm part of a choir, so for me, I suppose I was kind of just looking at the whole big sound. But I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was lovely.
There's a little bit of a shameless self-promotion, eh?
Well, I don't know. Yeah. You don't get to hear me.
Yeah, I'd love to hear you. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so kindly.
So, Dan, what are you working on currently? I know you said you've been writing a lot of songs. So, do you have like a whole bunch of songs and maybe gearing towards an EP or a full album? What's the idea?
Yes, I recently released an album. It's called Dan McCarthy, When the Light Fades. You can find it on iTunes and Amazon and Google Play. It's about a 12-track album. The first one was actually Dan McCarthy, Lost and Enjoy Your Journey, which was just an EP. It was kind of the basic idea. It was 7 songs. And later I expanded it to 12 songs. And also beginning to play a lot more 12-string guitar as well. I've really taken to the 12-string sound. It gives it a lot more depth. But yeah, you can also find my music online at danmccarthysoloacoustic.com through Reverb Nation, and it has various different takes. And I always like to record everything I do just live take, just a very simple live take.
Well, that kind of gives it a good edge to it, and just like this show is live, if a script happens, it happens, and you just go with it and continue on, right?
Right. It's all about that improv, all about just what you feel and what comes out of you. And just like this show is amazing because it showcases some really amazing new music that you don't often hear, and that's incredible.
Well,
I love it.
All about the indie. I want to get back to your 12-string playing here just for a second, Dan, because I've been playing guitar for a while. I'm just going to consider myself an amateur. We'll leave it at that. But the point being is I lived in Michigan for about 6 years. Like, I'd moved there with a family. And I learned a little bit playing 12-string. I don't have one personally. I've never had one. But I remember borrowing one for a while. And I had so much fun with it. But at the same time, too, it's like it's almost like relearning the guitar because now you're doubled up on every chord. So now you're learning to kind of pick in between that and get the chord sound a little bit different, right? Because your low E, you got the 2 strings, the high E, you got the 2 strings. So your G, your F, the whole thing. So it's got to be a completely different ball game altogether. Just playing with that and enjoying it because now you can add a lot more, but you're still playing just the one guitar essentially.
Right, it's almost like the sound of 2 guitars because your low E, you have a high E, low E, except for, of course, your top 2 strings are their own strings. But it just gives it so much more depth, so much more feel to it. And I just love it. I just love it. I have a track that's called Fence Post Man. I wrote it essentially about a gentleman who was putting a fence in outside my house. And I thought, well, I thought, well, it would be a whole gang of guys, 4 or 5 guys there. And it showed up with just one guy, one extremely hardworking guy. And he was out there in the rain and the wind. I was like, wow, I really gotta write a song about this gentleman because he's just so
Does he know?
Work ethic.
Does he know?
Yeah, I've been doing it for many years, and he just said, Dan, I should have stayed in school, and what did you do? I should have picked a different career path, but here I am, and yet doing so, this is what I do, but he just blew me away with his work ethic. So I actually wrote a song about him, a 12-string version called Fence Post Man.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, Dan, because this past Christmas I was at my dad's house in Michigan, and Christmas morning, say roughly like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and I go for smoking a coffee. I look over, and his neighbors are doing their roof, and they finished that roof in one day.
Wow!
I was like, wow, that's impressive. I was like, but at the same time too, it was actually warm enough. It wasn't below freezing. It was like maybe like low 50s on Christmas Day.
Did you say that was Christmas?
That was Christmas. Yeah, Christmas in Michigan.
Wow!
It was the same thing in London, Ontario. It was not cold. I mean, it didn't get colder till like maybe a few days after. But yeah, it was sitting in the low 50s, and 2 guys just plugging away, and they got it done in one day. And they finished probably like I can say around 6 p.m. and because I'm going in and out sort of thing. And I was like, wow, that was really quick, and that was such a good job done because they had the lights up and everything and done. I was like, wow, that's impressive that he took the time to actually do it now instead of later on, right?
Right. They just had that drive to do it.
Right. So there's my comparison. I'm not trying to one up you here either, Dan. I just happen to have a few stories that kind of relate to what you're talking about. So we're gonna get to another song off this compilation by Factory Fast Records called Naked Songs. The band is called UV Traveler, and the song is called If There's Time. Dig this.